I think every one of us ought to be humiliated or humbled every time we pick up the book of Acts and read the glory that attended the life of that first church. By contrast, the most successful kind of Christianity that we know, the most charismatic, the most to be lauded and applauded, is utterly anemic and does not bear comparison. How is it that these rude men, fishermen and louts who had no advantage of the kind that we have enjoyed, were able to turn cities upside down and shake the earth? Why is it we have not had a corresponding effect in our own generation? The answer, in my opinion, is that in missing the cross, we have missed the power of the resurrection. We have sidestepped the cross as a subject, let alone as experience, because we have no tolerance or sympathy for suffering. The denial of self in any form is suffering, and we have not been encouraged to that. We have overindulged and spoiled our youth, compromised truth in our marriages, suffered casualties and losses among our ministers, and given ground to the spirit of independence and rebellion in the churches, all because we cannot stand pain. We parents who indulge our kids rather than chasten them, are we being loving or self-indulgent? We pastors who condescend to placate men rather than speak the truth to them in love, why are we so sparing? We saints who see the defects and the things that need to be corrected in each other, why are we silent? Where are the Pauls of our generation who will confront the Peters, who have compromised the gospel by being one thing with one group and another thing with another? Paul said he would not entertain that situation to go on beyond the moment for the purity of the gospel's sake. I call that love. But you know that kind of love as an act is painful and it's humiliating. In a word, our Christianity is degenerating into a middle-class culture, a sanctifying cover-up for the status quo, a vacuous praise club, an equating of gain as godliness, a comfortable religiosity that leaves our real interests unchallenged and undisturbed in the avoidance of the cross of Christ Jesus. For we ourselves are wallowing in the things that are earthly, common, unclean, and profane. The fact that the world can so easily tolerate us, the fact of the almost complete absence of reproach, let alone of persecution, is itself a shameful testimony that we are so like the world that we cannot be distinguished from it. I believe that God could lay at the door of the church the full responsibility for the present condition of the world. For we have not established in the earth a standard and an alternative to which a dying world might have turned. It's a scandal and a shame that many of our services, particularly in the Pentecostal realm, look more like high school football rallies and attempts to pump up flesh in the guise of spirit because of the avoidance of the cross. And because we have cowards in the pulpit, and because we don't want to be shaken or disturbed, we put a thin gloss over that whole mess and try and pump up some measure of successful religion that will bring a flush to our cheek and give us a Sunday hour. Have you not read the final verse of the 2nd chapter of the book of Ephesians? To God be glory in the church. It is an unspeakable scandal that of all of the institutions to be found in the earth in this hour, the church is the deadest. Our religion becomes increasingly a performance. Waiting on God in silence that would reveal our spiritual bankruptcy is drowned out by our amplifiers and ceaseless activity, lest we acknowledge our condition. It's easy to be misunderstood, for which reason we prefer to keep quiet, for which reason the world is running amok with us, and for which reason we move into increasing carnality not being corrected by one another. The avoidance of pain is a costly avoidance. And the symbol of the cross at the heart of the faith is an invitation to share in his sufferings. There's a reason why we're uncomfortable with silence. There is a tacit and unspoken agreement between clergy and congregation by which the show goes on. At the time when the church should be preparing herself to be a visible place of refuge in a coming age of disaster, as an island of sanity and reality in a sick world, she herself is declining into pusillanimous faith and superstition. Weary millions tramp about in a no-man's land of religious frustration and defeat, professing for doctrines realities which they never have experienced. Are we not rather a people like those of old who desire a king who would come down from the cross, and we will believe him, rather than be required or invited to join him on it? The spirit that clamors for prosperity, for blessings, quote unquote, and the rapture, is not the spirit that's going to appreciate a message on suffering and the cross. How many of us secretly believe that we're doing God a favor? Others needed to be saved out of their sin, and though we technically acknowledge, well, maybe that was true, our deepest heart believes that God saw in us some virtue and some ability that he needs to employ for his kingdom, and we have somehow a special basis for our relationship, which is different from that of others. Can you picture that dumb centurion and those that were with him at the base of the cross that day? The densest of men, a professional soldier and a hack, whose work it is to hang men on crosses. Thick, insensitive, soulish, carnal, a Roman. He's seen Caesars deified as gods. He has celebrated all the wrong values. So why should he have even so much as a modicum of respect for the pathetic Jew who's hanging on the cross? And what a shambles that Jesus was. This Roman centurion, who didn't have a spiritual iota to his makeup, seeing these things and those that were with him, cried out, "Truly, this is the Son of God." How many countless thousands of religionists are there occupying pews on Sunday who have yet to come to that cry and to that revelation? Are we willing to bring to the cross, the plumb line of God from heaven, our wish dreams and subjective fantasies, our total life, for his total correction?